Buff Nation. Yes, I'm here. I'm here after this absolute inexcusable, ugly massacre by our arch rival, Nebraska Cornhuskers, that hadn't beaten us previously since 2010. This is going to be a little bit different of a post game. Of course, I'll take some of your comments and appreciate everybody that's with me here tonight. Appreciate you guys as always, but hope you guys have had a wonderful day despite how this day might be ending. Mine was great. My grandpa turned 99 today, so we had a wonderful birthday party. I'm anticipating this game. I cannot wait. It's been on my mind all week long. And man, what happens out the gate? It's hard to put it in some words, but I think the words that I put in my thumbnail was losing like this, it is inexcusable. Because now, right now, what the legacy of this program is that we're going to be known for getting our ass absolutely beat by a team that didn't even have to rely on their five-star true freshman quarterback. No, like we did this to ourselves. Now, of course, Nebraska deserves all the credit. Shame on some of you people that were just saying that Nebraska team was terrible. That Nebraska team was the same thing that we saw last year, that this was going to be a cakewalk. I had the Buffs winning 31-28, and I got to say I feel great by the fact I at least picked Nebraska's side, right? Like they were going to score points. But Coach Prime, the offense was out of sync. They looked rattled. Our team looked rattled. They were not built for the moment. And now this is something that I am going to have to live with, and the rest of Buff Nation is going to have to live with, unless something changes, until 2031. This absolutely inexcusable, embarrassing performance in all fashion. In all fashion. We can get to the coaching. We can talk about that. We can talk about how the offensive line looked terrible. And that's a tough one, man. Phil Oldholt, we might as well add Bill O'Boyle out there, man. Khalil Benson, don't touch two, more like do touch two. He was absolute garbage today. Tyler Brown looked absolute garbage. And for you guys that are saying, well, move Khalil Benson to right tackle, do you understand if he's being put on skates inside at guard, can you imagine what the hell's going to happen to that young man putting him out at tackle? No. Uh, and we can talk about the defense as well. I don't want to hear anything about, oh man, well, this defense played good in the first half. My ass. They gave up 21 points in the first half. And yeah, we pitched a shutout. We pushed a shutout. If you're looking at the box score, right? Oh my God, we gave up 0 points. Guys, they were just trying to burn clock. Like and this is so hard because they executed exactly how you should when you're up at halftime at 28-0. You're just burning clock. You're just going to run some vanilla stuff. You know, you're not concerned with running up the score, anything like that. No, not at all. Nah, defense was bad. Offense was bad. Special teams was also an embarrassment. And man, how foolish do some of my hot takes and hopes look for the season? Mata, I think the Folsom Frenzy guys convinced me, man, with that block kick, man. I want this guy to be an all Big 12 kicker, but it just ain't there. You call a spade a spade. We got no kicker. Kickoffs were terrible. Special teams causing issues now, of course. Jimmy Horn had a great play at the beginning to get us into field position, but same old story, man. It's going to be interesting to see if I can find the plays in the replay of how well we ran out like the 4 times that we were in pistol, but still like, again, this continues to be a staff in a program that continues to make the same mistakes, over and over again, and I think that we saw in my opinion, I thought we saw some good, uh, you evidence of change against Nebraska. Again, we played disciplined football. We were good tacklers. Uh, like, yeah, we won the penalty battle, right? The offense looked explosive. And another thing where I'm very sad that I'm right about this, but I got to call this out is I thought Nebraska was going to be incredibly foolish coming out here and doing what we saw last year, which was mainly rushing three, not blitzing Shador and dropping eight in coverage. I thought that that was going to be very foolish. I thought the best path for Nebraska to win is by applying pressure, is by blitzing, is by bringing 4 or 5 guys consistently and creating chaos. So those big plays down the field, you didn't even have to worry about your secondary. And that's exactly what Nebraska did. And it was our downfall. We failed to adjust. We were not built for the moment. And guys, again, before we start talking about diving into too many details about the defense, this is just what I'll say about the defense is, yeah, they played fine in the second half. Okay. But those first few scoring drives were getting absolutely gashed for 10, 15-yard rushes. Like um, the defense, this is what I will say. They were the best of the worst units today. And I think it's nice to at least have some players on the defense that continue to give a shit throughout the game. Again, I thought that penalty at the end, it was whatever, but BJ Green, I thought, again, shame on anybody that said that this guy shouldn't be on the team. This guy had a blocked punt. He was getting in the backfield. I thought that roughing the passer call was a little weak, but again, when you play the way that we have played to where we need all those 50-50 calls to kind of go in our favor, um, yeah, we put ourselves in that position. Like the refs are not to blame in this game. And again, hats off to Nebraska. This sucks. This fucking sucks. And right now, Coach Prime, he's at a crossroads with his legacy. Is he going to let this define his legacy? This was a repeat of the Oregon game where we went into a hostile environment and we looked rattled. We looked like we didn't know what to do. We were not composed. We were not disciplined, strong, whatever the other adjectives that he uses to describe the guys that he recruits here. This was a soft and rattled team in the first half. And it also starts with the top, with Shador. Even he was making mistakes. That pick six was completely inexcusable. The DB was right there in the flat, and I guess that he just didn't see him. There was, again, I think it might have been till the second quarter till we had our second rush during the game and our first down during the game. This was failures all on all fronts, with Pat Shurmur failing to provide some different looks outside of how you're lining up the 10 personnel. Tavell Smalls got a little involved. That was great. But again, like we did not see a dynamic offense. Guys were just not ready for this moment. I think LeJontay Wester, although he scored a touchdown in garbage time, that's wonderful. He had 3 crucial drops for us in the first half. The offensive line, Hank Zielinskis getting owned. There were a couple instances in which the left side of the line, Mayers and Seaton, did not deal with those stunts put on Nebraska. And it was just absolutely brutal. And I want to shout out again the Giants up front for Nebraska. Robinson, Hutchmacher, and that number 5, I guess he's a linebacker or safety. He was so disruptive the entire game. I think he had multiple batted passes down, which they played lights out. Like that Nebraska defense was ready. They were hungry. And like when you come into a rivalry game, that means as much as this does to us. Players, everybody is talking about, yeah, we're taking it more seriously. We understand what it means after being through it last year. They sure came out and played scared. They played like uh, they didn't beat this team, and you even saw it in the metrics. They had 8 guys leave the program last year, I think, right? It was either 8 or 11. Like, this is essentially the same team, and then they brought in 8 or 11 guys. Barely any program turnover, and shows you what having a dynamic quarterback can do once you're able to build out the trenches and everything else like that. The offensive game plan was fantastic from Nebraska. They gave Dylan Raiola easy stuff, play action rollouts, floods, bubble screens, really easy stuff to get him in a rhythm, and it was just enough to take pressure off the run game. And that Dowdle guy, Dante Dowdle, was absolutely menacing in the first half. And although we didn't really see much from him in the second half, again, this game was essentially over by halftime, which was discouraging. But this is something where, as a Buffs fan, this is painful. Like, this is so painful, and it is embarrassing. And you can't go in to Lincoln, Nebraska, and lay a goose egg in the first half, and it's even the way that it's done. A lack of execution, a lack of yeah, it's like I don't even feel like we're using our talent the way that it should be used. Like, we have the talent to be competitive in our games this year. This should have been a game that we should have been competitive in. When you have the veteran players, when you have a quarterback like Shador there, he should be prepared and ready to go. This might have been one of the worst games I've seen Shador play. I thought he just looked flustered from the get-go. And again, that's credit to Nebraska. I think they had some posters up in the stands that said, welcome to your worst nightmare. And this tonight was an absolute nightmare. This was like, I told my friends, my really close friends that I talked to about football, I said, all right, I'm going to go jump off a bridge and I'll see you guys for NFL tomorrow. Like, I feel like I died tonight as a Buffs fan. I feel like I died tonight. And I think like that is, again, this is like Michigan, Ohio State for us. And when you lose that, again, 4-8 last year, yeah, that sucks. But at least we can go back and say we beat Nebraska. And you might say, well, you beat CSU. Guys, we don't give a shit about CSU. They are our little brother. Now, it's great that we have an opportunity to go out there, and the way that I see it, even though it's on the road, that is a get-right game for us. Can we get right before we go into Big 12 play? But let's not act like the CSU rivalry is anywhere near the importance of what it means to play and to beat Nebraska. And right now, this is Coach Prime's legacy. We're coming into the year of expectation, and we fail in absolutely all fronts. And like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, there's very little positives that I can grab from this game. There are none. When you lose to your rival like that on NBC in prime time with a true freshman quarterback, it is inexcusable. When you see a lack of adjustment, when you see, again, coming out, it's like the mentality continues to just be finesse. And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to me how that Shador is going to be facing pressure in this game. And it was very clear from the get-go that they weren't going to be rushing 3, dropping 8 like we saw last year. Again, they were smart. This was stuff that I talked about earlier this week. And I felt like if Nebraska was going to have success against this offense, it was going to be because they were bringing 4 or 5 guys consistently. And that's what they were doing. but we failed to take any pressure off the passing game. One, by putting Charlie Offerdahl out there, who is not a capable starting running back. I refuse to believe it, and I don't care if he has some ability to pick up blitzes. He is not. He was a walk-on our 1-11 team. What does that tell you? And again, 4th and inches. What do? We're running like a strange zone read. I don't even know if it's just a zone read or if Shador just does those handoffs intentionally, but it was horribly handed off. And again, when we saw that when we were running from the pistol, for instance, a little bit more, Dallin Hayden, for instance, had some great runs. But I have questions about the use of personnel. Uh, like, and even the offensive line, like with what's going on there, like I guess like at this point it's just like, yes, let's put Tyler Johnson in and see what he can do. He was the highest graded guy that we brought in, started at Houston last year and had and had success. And but I don't know. I know he's been fighting injury, but Khalil Benson and particularly Tyler Brown, man, in those pass sets, he is just not quick enough to face athletic edges, and I think like that was one of the big takeaways. Although we were able to, with a very well coached team, but not nearly as athletic in North Dakota State, our pass protection I thought looked great. The only time Shador was getting hit mainly was when he was holding the ball trying to extend plays, and you're going to take some of that. But this was extremely discouraging, not only because we could not uh, we could not protect the passer at all, but also like we really struggled to get rid of the ball quickly. You would have loved to see more situations in which Shador goes to a hot read out of the backfield or something like that. But a lot of the passes that were close to the line of scrimmage right there in the first, second quarter, a lot of those things were outside the numbers. Like he's still throwing a long distance. And again, I feel like with how we attack this defense, it made things even harder on us. And this isn't a team that can consistently overcome those things. Thankfully, we have some players such as Travis Hunter, whose jersey I'm wearing, Jimmy Horn, I'll put him in that category, and Shador Sanders. They have shown that in some games, not most of them, they've been able to overcome the bad coaching. And this was one of those situations where if they're not on the top of their game, the rest of our team is not going to pick them up. And our coaching staff sure isn't going to make this any easier on any of our guys. And I mean, that was true. I mean, you're even looking at the end of the first half where I think Coach Prime has 20 or 30 seconds run off the clock before he calls a timeout with maybe 15 seconds left. We get one more play in, we kick a field goal that goes nowhere, but we could have easily had another 2 plays off of that if he is just mindful. And again, I said this yesterday where or earlier this week, I talked about like Coach Prime is successful in whatever he does. He's obviously very bright, like to be a Hall of Fame player, to study the way that he needed to study, to be as good as he was in the NFL and all of that. Like I refuse to believe that he can't get better at the game management stuff, but I think the storyline right now is that he refuses to correct some of these glaring holes that he's constantly creating for the team. And I guess before I get to some of your comments, I'm not going to get to all of them because I think we got close to 1,200 people in here, which is hilarious. I appreciate all the support and smash that like and subscribe. I've noticed, man, that some Buffs fans, I don't really pay too much attention to subscribers, but I noticed maybe during the game that I lost like maybe 15 subscribers or so. Hey, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here regardless. Like the Buffs are my ride or die. It matters to beat schools like this. It matters to play football in a way in which it lifts up the team. It lifts up my university. It lifts up the program, the state, all of that. And um, Coach Prime is at a crossroads. Is his legacy going to be defined by this in the big games? Or is this going to be a pivot early on in the season or point early on in the season in which we can see those things correct? Last year, we did not see it. My hope is that we can see that coming out of this Nebraska game and getting right against CSU before we go into a gauntlet of conference play. But guys, I give you my opinion. I'm a natural optimist. If you follow this channel, I try not to sell you guys straight bullshit telling you that this team was a CFP contender and all of that. No way. Or how it's unrealistic to have one of the worst ranked defenses in college football and then be a top 20 ranked defense. Same with an offense, right? But I thought we would see a substantial step still taken in hopefully getting to that first bowl game win that we've been waiting for since Joel Klatt was quarterback here. I don't want his legacy to be defined by this. I want to see him succeed. I want to see this thing through because I do believe in it. But I'm lying to you guys if I'm telling you that I'm not absolutely embarrassed and disheartened at tonight's performance. Just inexcusable. And you can blame this or that or the transfer portal, all that. Man, we see schools win with the transfer portal. Like, we got enough guys to be competitive in this game. This falls on coaching and our head coach, and that is Coach Prime, and he needs to get this thing right. Lastly, one more thing. Shame on all you negative Nancys who are in here trying to just dump water in me on my post game last week against NDSU, because if you have followed this program, you know you don't take any win for granted. And it's because of days like this, just hashtag buff shit days, which is why you take and you celebrate the victories that you can come by, because they have been far and few between for the last 20 years. So if you guys want to be negative, we can be negative. All I ask is that we wait till we actually have a loss to be pissed about. And this is one where this is worse than Oregon. This is worse than UCLA because this shit matters. And they came out there looking scared, looking stiff. Even the leaders looked scared, stiffed. Our best players looked flustered. Aside from maybe Travis Hunter. I mean, Jimmy almost bobbled the first kickoff twice. He almost fumbled. He bobbled it twice. These guys didn't come out ready. And sadly, I am scared that this program will be ultimately defined by one that is all bark and no bite. And I have been dying to see this team kick some ass. So, yeah, I'll get to some of your comments. Thank you guys so much. And, hopefully Chidoze is okay. Shiloh's probably going to miss a large portion of the year with a broken forearm. That's just absolutely brutal. But, yeah, we can see walk-on Hall of Famer, practice player Ian Massey play, right? You guys want to see the walk-ons play, so I guess he's going to get his turn, right? 7th year, 6-year college player that all you guys are asking for. Ian Massey, that has like 20 career snaps in his 6-year college career. I guess we can see him. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Hopefully Shador's okay. Didn't like the fact that we had to put Ryan Staub out there for cleanup duty, but it is what it is. Yeah, I guess I'll say too, again, hats off to Nebraska. They played perfect. They played absolutely perfect. And this is why you hire Matt Rule. This is why when we fired Carl Durrell, Matt Rule was one of those guys that I want to go after. Because that man knows how to build a college football program. Nebraska showed patience with him, and it's paying off. And their fans deserve tonight. They absolutely deserve everything tonight, especially because it's been over 5,000 days since they last beat CSU or CU because we're playing like CSU. So FPSD, thank you for the $5 super chat. The coaching sucks. This is college football, not the NFL. The coaches need to stop talking about the NFL, and it's not going to mean anything if we're not putting substance behind this. Like if we're not putting wins behind this. This was, and this is the season of expectation. Like at minimum, this should be a 6-win team. Like this is trying not to hyperbolize too much, but this is my instant reaction, right? I'll probably settle down a little bit, after 24 hours. I kind of take that rule, whether it's a win or loss, and then I kind of come back to be a bit more level-headed. But dude, this is, in my opinion, right now, this is failure if this team doesn't reach 6 wins. They have enough talent to do it. But yeah, talking about the NFL recruiting, none of that's going to matter if this is always going to be the performance in the big games. And again, last year it was a blowout. If Nebraska had just a heartbeat of a quarterback, it's a much closer game than last year in Boulder. Thank you, FPSD. Appreciate your constant support. Kyle Bigelow coming in with the $5 super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 16 yards rushing and all that with Staub breaking loose. Where is Hayden? Where's Augustive? Let's go ahead and take a look at the box score here. Excuse me. Let me refresh this because I did like the few runs that Dallin Hayden got. But again, we just came out passing it 3 straight times like we have seen. Again, I thought Dallin Hayden, he ended up having an efficient day. It's hard to gain much off of that, but 6.4 yard average. We ran it a few times with him out there in pistol formation, which again, I feel like is much better for developing our running game because we can't run for shit out of shotgun, man. We don't have those guys up front. We need to help our running back get a full head of steam, already seeing how these blocks are going before he's even, after he's gotten the ball, just giving him momentum and a split second more to kind of make those reads. Yeah, Charlie Offerdahl was bad. Guys, I don't want to ever hear him compared to Christian McCaffrey ever again. Again, this is where, again, the expectation where I do feel like that we put on these guys, it totally backfires. And yeah, have I been part of that? Yes. But when you come out and say that everybody's an All-American, we got 15 NFL draft picks when Michigan had 13 last year in an undefeated season, it just looks foolish. And I think so often this community has set the bar way too high for really where these guys are at. We got some average players. We got some bad players. We have a few elite players that I feel like are very good. But because we're not filled with a ton of elite players, this result, while it is embarrassing, it's not totally surprising, right? Right? Let's be real with ourselves. It's not totally surprising. Again, I thought we'd give up 28 points. That's what I said. I just thought our best players on offense and we would play more composed and we would have a little bit more developed game plan after, in my opinion, barely showing anything against NDSU. We gave them a few different looks, but again, when you're down in a hole immediately, maybe you got to abandon that a little bit. But I think we still could have used the run game, especially in the first half, to just kind of help settle things down. But again, we just want to run these dive plays. We just no jet sweeps. Again, a jet sweep was something that we scored off of with Tarvarish Dawson last year. We used a handful of jet sweeps last year in this game. We used none of that. I think Travis Hunter had a little jet sweep type pass in the second half, but there was just no creativity. The critics to Pat Shurmur, who I thought has been a good addition to this coaching staff, all those critics were right tonight. That game plan looked stiff and it lacked creativity, and it lacked putting Nebraska in a position where their defense had to make constant decisions pre-snap. We let them dictate the game mentally, physically, coaching wise. We were completely outcoached, and this coaching staff and this team should be ashamed of themselves for this type of performance. It makes me sick, and yeah. But again, credit to Nebraska. Like, they played how they should have played. They have a lot to be excited about, especially as a long suffering program, much like us. It seems like they've uh, maybe have finally turned a corner. And I've been saying it all off season long. I think that they could be a 10-win team. They have sure looked the part first two games through it. So, credit to them. But man, sick to my stomach with how they played today. Sudden death. Thank you for the 199. Says the defensive line has been disappointing. Yeah, and I will say, I thought the pass rush in certain situations again has been fine. I think it's been improved. I think it's been better. Again, that's just me basing off of what I've seen, but we got to see if like the stats dictate that or whatever too. But what I will say is that it was disheartening to see us absolutely gashed for just big chunk yards in the interior of that defensive line. I think maybe more that B gap, actually, mainly on the right side. I mean, we were just gashed for 10 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards, 15 yards. Dowdle just looked. He just looked unstoppable. And it's so funny because when I take a look at it here, we only gave up 150 rushing yards, and I said, if we give up 150 rushing yards, then most likely they're putting the ball in Dylan Raiola's hands more, and I feel like we're gonna win the game if we hold them to under that. But the game was so out of hand. Like they made the big plays, they had the chunk plays, they were disciplined. They didn't extend our drives through penalties. Let's just check this out. Oh, wow. We actually won the penalty battle. And this is a side note. This goes for pretty much. There were a couple targeting calls that I agreed with. Trevor Woods, as well as that 42 leading with the forearm on Shador. I thought that was a dirty hit as well. But the other targeting calls I thought were very questionable. I hated how it was just called throughout this game. I wish college football would clean this up somehow, because I understand player safety, but at the end of the day, too, it just kills the flow of the game. Like, absolutely hate it. You shouldn't be stopping like 5-6 times a game to look at targeting. I hated it. But regardless, we had the same exact penalty yards as Nebraska. We had 11 minutes or so, maybe a little over 10 minutes less time of possession. And, really, Shador, he's a big play quarterback. And it was very clear that he was uncomfortable getting rid of the ball quickly when facing pressure. And again, we've seen a lot of themes with him to where while he can play the quick game, he's a big play quarterback. And I think that, hopefully I can get my hands on some all 22 film. If not, I'll do my best to watch the replay. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how many hot reads or, underneath stuff was available for him. Because when that 2.5-second mark goes off, like, you have to get rid of the ball. And offensive line was terrible. I thought Shador's decision-making was well below par of what it's normally at. And when you saw that first drive where they were rushing 4-5, that first drive, like every single time, that should have been a cue that, okay, like, we need to work the quick game. We need to, try something a little bit different in the running game, all that, or even just attempt a running game. But this was utter complete failure the entire time. But guys, this is this is my ride or die team. Like, I'm going to see this thing through. I still believe that this can get better. But at the end of the day, you got to look at how we have performed in these big games or in these games in which we haven't been the team with superior talent, where it's been considered more evenly matched or slightly at a disadvantage. Have we ever played? Has this team ever played up to their potential so far? I would say absolutely not. And um, in year two, much like Matt Rule in year two, you should start to see a turning of the page. You should start to see an improvement with some of these things. And my fear right now is that this very much feels like the Oregon game, and I don't want this to be a repeat of last year. But again, we have our chance against CSU to play up to our potential. That should be a game in which we're winning by 15, 20 points. With this team, that is how I feel. We'll see how we play. Thank you so much for the super chat, guys. Really do. I'll probably go for about 10 more minutes here. I'll just pick out a few of these. Man, what happened to DT2 David became do touch 2. Man, Khalil Benson looked absolutely terrible. Those few Indiana fans that chime in here, you guys were absolutely right. Uh, I mean, that guy is just not athletic enough to play. And Jack Bailey did look pretty decent at center for Northwestern. Maybe that's where he should have been playing all along. All right, let's see what else we got. I'll just pick out a few. If you want to ensure that I read your comment, um, send me a super chat. Yeah, man. And this was my fear for Khalil, man. Like, this was my fear. And this is why I said in my like hot take or prediction videos, I had some guys that could really perform. And I put, hey, if we're able to establish a running game this year, I could see him being like, on one of these teams for all conference or whatever. Um, and part of that is because, hey, if you're confident enough to put out merch about how good you're going to be, okay, I'm going to hold you to that. He was absolutely terrible. He was bad in our biggest moments in the short yardage, as he was against North Dakota State. Uh, just embarrassing, man. Just embarrassing. Sharon Jameson, Down and Mish are going to hit the portal. Guys, we got all offseason to talk about all that. Is Prime going to stick around? Is he going to retire? Is he going to get fired? Like, man, guys, we're in the second week of the season. You guys know how often I talk about all the stuff in the offseason. So, not really wanting to get too ahead of ourselves, but just like any program that loses a bunch, that is going to be a cause for concern. Like, if this turns out to be the year where we're not reaching expectation. Isis Walk, I completely disagree with this. If you've really paid attention to how they've built their program, they've done a good job at development. They win the trenches, as you saw today. Now they have a quarterback in which they put together game plans that allow him to succeed very quickly as a true freshman. And they have better athletes at the skill positions this year. Continuity, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. And no, Nebraska has been talked about as a dark horse contender for the Big Ten. I think they definitely deserved it. And say what you want, but they have blown out their first two opponents in dominating fashion, and they have one of the most dynamic offenses, as funny as that is to say, against their schedule. And I think they're going to win a lot of games this year. I think this is the year things finally turn around for Nebraska, no doubt. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see what else we got. Just fire everybody. Yeah, Prime has to evolve. Like, this isn't FCS anymore. And like we've talked about that, where um at that level, having the exposure, having the documentaries, having like all of that stuff when you're just fighting for an opportunity at some school in Division 1, or things haven't worked out for you in FBS and you're looking for a new start to hopefully get back to the top level of playing Power 4 college football. Like, that works in your favor a little bit better. The standards are higher in Power 4 football. Not only that stuff is cool to create energy and momentum, but at the end of the day, that needs to evolve into wins. Eventually, it needs to evolve into uh, just not like persistent, but I don't know. I need to eat. I'm losing the adjectives I'm wanting to say, but it needs to turn into like winning football habits, right? Like, it's disappointing. Good news, you're not Notre Dame. Hey, appreciate the silver lining, Keck, but uh, man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I might rather be a Notre Dame fan right now still. I don't know. Losing to Nebraska, that's one thing. Hey, if Notre Dame can come out and still beat USC, hey, some sins are forgiven, right? Um, yeah. And yeah, I agree in Green Creole. If there's ever a discussion about this going, there's no need to bring race into this. No, this is a results oriented business. Um, you know, at absolutely, like, and as a head coach, no matter what your race is, you are responsible for the program and the results, and in the fashion in which you earn those results. Today was a pathetic performance, and there's been a lot of things that I feel like this program has been ridiculed of unfairly. Now they deserve everything that's coming for them this week. Oregon was worse. No, no. This means so much more than Oregon. We don't have a rivalry with Oregon. I think a lot of people coming into this recently hate Oregon, but no, like, that's not how I feel about Oregon. Yeah, thank you for this thoughtful comment, Orlando Baylark. Shador definitely held on to the ball too long. He also needs to learn to climb the damn pocket and stop running backwards. That kills any offensive drive, yes. And while I feel like he's been a little bit better at limiting the drifting, it definitely did show up more today. And again, he just started from a place of feeling rattled. Uh, how can you help him? One, it's not by Lejante Wester just dropping a gimme pass at the beginning of the game. It doesn't help that we don't go through just a couple plays in that script to get a running game going. And even if it's not substantial in developing, you at least get through those first few plays of just running them, right? Get comfortable. You start, you're able to see the defense. Things can slow down for you a little bit, instead of like, hey, I'm going to put the pressure on me to adjust every play and make every play from the pocket and all of this. Like, it was he had he did not play with composure today, and that snowballed the bad play of everybody else. Let's see what else we got. It tells me that Dion is a poor talent evaluator. I don't think I'd necessarily say that. I feel like with most of what I um, talk about is that I feel like we have the talent to win, but it's the fashion in which we play. I don't feel like it brings out the best. And again, I feel like that here nobody on the coaching staff this week is of is safe from that criticism, man. Like, I don't feel like our coaches or game plans put anybody in um, position to win or be better. But I don't know. It's always harder for me to talk about poor talent evaluator. Um, I mean, maybe you could say that's why he doesn't recruit a lot of high school guys, because you kind of need to project and you need to be able to see things like what these guys' potential is, right? So maybe there is a little bit to that. But again, like with the guys that we brought in on the offensive line, and again, I wasn't expecting elite defensive line and elite offensive line play this year. I just wanted to get to fucking average. Like, can we be like 70th in the country in both of those aspects? If so, I think we're gonna be in a lot of football games, and I think we're gonna win a handful of football games. Um, we're not playing up to that expectation right now. Yeah, yeah. Charlie can have his own movie called Charlie. How about that? Um, yeah, Dante. I didn't think Shador quit. Um, Like, I knew that he was banged up a little bit, so hopefully his concussion isn't serious. If we're going to Fort Collins with Ryan Staub as our quarterback, I'm absolutely terrified. Yeah, um, yeah, Khalil. But even Lexi was like, "Who is 67 and why is he on the team?" Zion, Dave, I told you this team was not going to be very good this year. Well, at least this week, Zion, you are right. Appreciate the support as always. They'll be fine, Dave. Maybe, but again, like this is the most important game of the year. Like when Nebraska's on the schedule, this means more than anything. I know that maybe some people watching this don't understand that yet. Maybe in due time, more of us will. But this isn't like getting blown out against Washington State, UCLA, Oregon. This this is just a lot more weighty, and we played like a bunch of bitches today, and that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. The coaches looked like bitches. The players played like bitches outside of a few, you know. They were undisciplined near the end. Special teams, good lord. Um, I want to like I can see the vision of where this thing goes. Like I don't think the big issue is how we're acquiring talent. I think the issue is what we're doing with them once we get them here. Richard, thank you for your honest opinion, David. They didn't seem to have any fight in the first half. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Anthony Knuckles said, give the man time that wasn't going to he did I lose you, Anthony? And again, this is my instant reaction. If you guys haven't watched these before, win or lose, it's definitely more volatile. We'll see how I feel 24 hours after this. But again, I've said this since I started this channel. There's a part of me that if we lose every game in the season, but we beat Nebraska, I'm still very happy for that. So, yeah, and yeah, but we're not going to have that. Like this is a championship type of game, rivalry game for us, and it was a statement game for the program, in a program that has been compared directly to them, not because they are just rivals, but because they've had a head coach take over at the same time. Both horrible teams. Granted, CU's roster, in my opinion, was at a lower talent level as opposed to Matt Rule. But you see Matt Rule in year two have a completely different strategy. Their recruiting strategies have been different. Their just the entire way they go about things is different. This was a statement game in so many ways, and it was a complete failure. New Harper, Nebraska scored 28 points, same as North Dakota State last week. Yeah, and 28 points. This is what I've said on defense. Haven't I said this, guys? That this team is going to give up, 27 points a game or so, like 26, 27, high 20s. If we do that, if this defense gives up that, and I guess you could only say New Harper, it was only 21 points because of Shador's pick six. So, and you're not talking about the defense. I misread that. You just said scored. But defense gave up 21 points. We should have won this game. That's like we have an offense that should put up way more points than the 10 points that we scored. But this is just another case of where I feel like our team, our coaching staff has gotten in their own way. Yeah, T-Buff91 says the first half was painful. Happy about the adjustments, but too little too late. Absolutely. And it was great to see BJ Green with the blocked punt, right? I think we forced him into a 3-and-out coming out of the second half. Like those little things are great. Man, didn't we have a short field? Yeah, at the beginning of the game because of Jimmy Horn. We just weren't able to do anything with those moments. And yeah. Ron Williams, we love you, Dave. Keep your head up. Dude, the Buffaloes, we will win a bowl game. We will win a bowl game. This season ain't lost yet. There's still plenty of time to get there. And again, sometimes I feel like we don't do ourselves any favors by saying that this is a 10-win minimum team just because we know more about these players than anybody else in college football. I think we're seeing it right now, that there's still some serious holes in this program. And, we're not going to reach that potential this year, but I think there still is a lot of football left. And last year, again, we didn't really see our program bounce back from that moment against Oregon. We had a chance to against Stanford a couple weeks later going into the bye week, and we never responded. One thing that I've talked about is when we deal with disappointment this year, how does this team respond moving forward? That's something I'm very excited to see next week is can this team, while inconsistent, can this team show that they are built different than last year's? We're going to find that out. If this is going to be the same story 2 years in a row, well, I guess we'll cross that bridge if we get to it. My hope is, though, not. Because, again, I thought there was a lot of good things to take from that NDSU game. We looked like a team that didn't build off of any of those successes last week. Thank you. This is Kayal. Hopefully I pronounced your name okay. Thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. Can you explain why Dallin is an RB1? Who the hell knows? I don't know. Not to be too cynical, but it doesn't really matter if we're just going to come out for the first 3 drives and pass the ball. But again, gosh. So with like Pat Shurmur, you've seen when he's have lesser quarterbacks. Like let's talk about Case Keenum from Abilene, Texas, where I'm at right now. When you saw him with the Minnesota Vikings, Pat Shurmur did a lot of things to establish a run game, play action, like all these basic things that you want to do to make the life of your quarterback easier, to set him up for success, right? But then you've seen in the NFL, and this was kind of my concern initially when I was like, crusty old Pat Shurmur. Now, I'm still optimistic about Pat Shurmur. Let me share that. But we'll say one of my fears about him was during the NFL, when he's had somebody with arm talent, he's kind of gone a little too far in just allowing them to cook. The issue is that it's guys like Drew Lock, that was just an absolute failure. Or man, who did we have? Who did he have in New York? Eli Manning. Man, I can't really speak to that. Did he have? Yeah, he had 1 year of Daniel Jones, and you know how that went his rookie year. It got him fired. That has kind of been my concern. And more so just kind of looking at the Drew Lock stuff was that I hated the situations that he put Drew in. Um, it's hard to know kind of what the dynamics are between him and Shador, but something needs to change where this offense, it needs to just play, for lack of a better term, I think a little bit more traditional in terms of doing the basic things to play complementary football on offense for like winning games. Like, holy shit. Like, like we came out there and my issue is that, okay, like, yeah, we can't run the ball, whatever, but we didn't even fucking try. And then we're running it out of shotgun with Charlie Offerdahl. Um, again, dude, he's too small. Again, he was a walk on a 1-11 football team. He earned a scholarship spot on this because he worked hard. I think it was a good story, all of that. If he's truly our best running back, he's been coached by a handful of guys like Darian Hagan before Coach Flea got here. And if Coach Flea continues to not develop these guys or put these running backs in situations where, we feel like they can command the ball at certain points of the game, I think, this looks bad on Coach Flea. It shows that Coach Flea can't take a guy with more talent like a Dallin Hayden or an Isaiah Augustave, right? Or a Michael Welsh. Now, it's only 2 weeks for Michael Welsh, true freshman. I have like very little expectation for guys like that coming in here to play a substantial role their freshman year. Also, we barely even saw any Draylon Miller. What the heck? What the heck? He was on that pick 6 to Shador. I think he was the target, and I don't remember seeing him after that. But Coach Flea, if you can't get these guys with more talent better than Charlie Offerdahl, I'm going to point the finger at you, man. Big chefing. Yeah, Nebraska was on a mission. They played like this game meant everything to them because it did. Credit to them. We walked in there like we were fine, just talking our shit. And we didn't really talk shit leading up to this game, but it's like we're confident. We're taking this more seriously. We're ready to go to war. All those types of things. And we looked like puppy dogs out there playing with against a bunch of bulldogs. Hey, Cameron. Good to see you, man. Congratulations on the win. I'm glad we can be aligned for tomorrow's game. But again, Nebraska fans deserve this. You guys played pretty much a perfect game. And you guys have been a long suffering fan base as well. I hope somehow we can continue this rivalry quicker before 2031. Hopefully, we can figure this out to play again soon because I don't know if I can sit with this. Much like you guys have since 2010, I don't know if I can sit with this feeling for another 7 years. We got absolutely pissed on today. Absolutely. All love, David. Great post game. Hey, thank you. I'm just giving you my honest opinions, man. But guys, like, man, I'm lying to you, man. If I don't feel like I don't see shades of Nathaniel Hackett, hard-headedness, and like a feeling of incompetence in some of these areas, man, with the coaching. I'm lying to you if I don't think that I don't feel like I see some similarities with that, which is tough to swallow. I thought y'all loved Charlie. Like, I love Charlie as a person. Thank you for the comment, Lolita. But I again, as a Colorado fan, how can I say that a guy that was a walk-on guy on our 111 team 2 years ago that's like, what, 5'9", 185 pounds, that like he's truly the best back that we got on this team? If he's the most prepared, that's great. Similar to Trevor Woods being put at linebacker, but once that was happening, he was still being in meetings with Charles Kelly in the secondary. I got questions for the position coach why that is happening. If Charlie Offerdahl's smarter and knows the plays and you can trust him in pass protection, what the hell is Flea doing to where none of these guys with bigger size and talent, guys who have been recruited by better programs than us, Ohio State, whoa, Arkansas, the other, how come these guys aren't ready to get out there? Gonna ask Coach Flea. I think the position coaches are and again, I think Coach Flea is a little bit more partial to some of these smaller backs. We saw it with Savion Wilkerson, who proved to not look like a power 4 back last year. We saw it with Dylan Edwards. He was very partial to getting him out on the field and even putting him in blitz pickup situations often, which I thought was, as a 170-pound back, I thought that was very foolish. Again, this is like areas where it's like Coach Prime sees these things. This is on him as head coach to at the end of the day get this right. But if he's co-signing it, you have to ask questions of why are you putting guys out there that, in my opinion, don't belong on the field. Shador is going to get hurt bad with an O-line that can't protect him, which is weird because I know he took more sacks today. But again, I think he showed an unwillingness to release the ball early. This is what I said. You blitz him. You blitz him. You bring 4, you bring 5, and you see if he's going to get rid of the ball early. And that was not the case, Chris. I know you're making fun of me and probably the chat, but I appreciate you as always. Appreciate all the support that you give the program, guys. If you don't know Grizz, he is somebody who backs up his love for this program. He gives a lot of money, to this football program. He bleeds black and gold. And even when we might disagree at certain points, very appreciative and, to have him in this community. But he says, I love to see all these YouTube coaches after the game shaking my head. Yeah, especially me, right? Never played a football game in my life, guys. You know that by now. But I can call a spade when I see it. And, this was a poorly coached football team all the way around today. No doubt about it. Yeah, 0 sacks on Raiola, 5 on Shador, and that's what happens when you're able to just gash our defense in the running game. Yeah, so all right, guys, I'm gonna finish this thing up. Again, really appreciate you guys for coming in. Yeah, I think that the worst thing here is that, yeah, losing Shiloh sucks, man. But hey, for the small contingency that wants to just see our Hall of Fame walk-on players play, maybe we might eventually get that. So thank you guys so much. While it is not the end of the world, I'm sugarcoating it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that there's anything positive to grab from today's game. There's absolutely nothing. This was absolute failure. And yeah, we'll see. Yo, Dave, don't throw them trench players under the bus. They played well considering the position they put the coaches put them in. Yes, that is what I'm going to lead with. I agree with you on that. At the end of the day, I think we have enough talent to win games this year, a handful of games, and win more than 4 this year. Our coaches did not do anything to help those trench players out. No doubt about it. So at the end of the day, the responsibility, I think at this point, it falls on them because we did bring in talent that should be at least average. Like, I'm not asking for elite play, guys. I'm just asking, can we not have units that look like dog shit? And a lot of that has to do with how the coaches, what the coaches are asking from some of these position groups. No doubt about it. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I will be back tomorrow for some afternoon thoughts, I think. And catch me on David Talks Broncos for my live post game after Bo Nix's debut against the Seattle Seahawks. It will be a breath of fresh air to watch a team that is disciplined, that is coached well, and where just unfathomable decisions aren't happening. Thank you guys so much. Go Buffs.